Good afternoon to everyone and my respectful pranams from India. In the subtle presence of Param Puj Gurudev and Paramandaniya Mataji, I would like to start with the recitation of the Gayatri Mantra. Gayatri Mantra is one of the cornerstones of Vedic philosophy. It allows us to walk on the righteous path. The teachings, the vision, the meaning and purpose of the Gayatri Mantra is to help any individual to walk on the path that is right for any human being to take. This is, in essence, is the prayer of Universal Brotherhood. It is the prayer of humanity. So those of you who can chant the Gayatri Mantra, please join with me in this prayer of Ma Gayatri, Gayatri Mantra together. Om Bhurvuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodaya. In the subtle presence of Param Puj Gurudev Paramandaniya Mataji on this very important occasion, when we are aiming to discuss the concept of the Dev Sanskriti, we are sending this message to you from the foothills of mighty Himalayas and from the lap of Ma Ganga, where we have the headquarters of all world Gayatri Pariwar. Gayatri Pariwar has about 150 million members and thousands of centers all over the world, and each and every Gayatri person is sending their best wishes to you. The concept that we have chosen for today's discussion, the concept of Dev Sanskriti, which is also the name of the university that I am currently sitting, Dev Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya, is one of the most pertinent and one of the most poignant one in the Vedic tradition and Indian philosophy. It is, in some ways, is the foundation of the Indian wisdom traditions. If we want to understand the purpose behind this unique concept of Deva Sanskriti, then we first have to witness the significance of the current times, because we are lucky and unlucky at the same time to have had this opportunity, or we may call it a blessing, to have lived in one of the most historical, precarious, unprecedented times in the history of the mankind. In Sanskrit we call it na bhuto na bhavishyate. It is kind of a time which never came before, and there is a hope that it would never occur in the future. And the reason I say it, not only because we are passing through one of the most challenging years, not only because we are witnessing a global pandemic, not only because we are seeing global tensions and other things, but I am saying more from the point of view, because if we look at the progress of humanity, particularly in the last 2 or 3 centuries, especially in the disciplines of science and technology, then without a shadow of doubt, the progress that we see had been extremely promising. Not only we have conquered the space and landed on the moon, we are already planning to establish a colony on the Mars, and there is no dimension left of the human development, from agriculture to economy, from computing to automation, where we cannot discover the signatures of progress and development. But, and that's a big but, this growth, this development, this progress, which came with technological supremacy, this all seemed to have come at a cost, and this cost is too big to pay. It came at a cost of our psychological, social, and emotional fulfillment and satisfaction. The truth of the current time is that in spite of all these marvelous accomplishments that we have in last 2 or 3 centuries, but if we evaluate the humanity and if we evaluate the personalities of the people, what we find are people with disintegrated beliefs, broken families, and fractured societies. And this seems like a loss far bigger than we can imagine, because we have progressed on outside significantly, but the vacuum that we have created inside the people is too big. People have got money but no satisfaction. They have got prosperity but no contentment. And you can go from Alaska to Azerbaijan, you can go from Indonesia to India, you can go from Sumatra to Suriname. This is the reality of the situation. Reality of the situation is that people have got everything that they seek and desire, but in spite of all that, there is such a vacuum inside the heart and soul of the people that no amount of wealth can repair that damage. And when we search for the solutions, or I would call a decent direction for humanity from here, then what comes to my mind is a concept. I don't say it a word because translation would be difficult. A concept called Sanskriti, because it is inaccurately translated as culture in English. And this is not a problem of translation. This is a problem of the fact that there is no suitable counterpart to this phenomena that we call as Sanskriti in Sanskrit. So it is better to understand that how culture differs from Sanskriti. When we use the word culture, then we are referring it to the geographically or topographically shared practices. So for example, if I use the word Italian culture, then many people would think that I am referring to Italian cuisine or Italian music or Italian dance, eating pizza, pasta, gnocchi, macaroni or something like that, which is a much limited viewpoint or very superficial and restricted kind of viewpoint for something which is extraordinarily vast and superior. And that is why I prefer to use the word Sanskriti, because it refers to something deeper, something more precious and something more pristine, because Sanskriti means refinement. Sanskriti means embellishment in Hindi. A refined individual, we call him Susanskrit, and a refined language is called Sanskrit. And this process of refinement of his or her personality is called Sanskriti. And when we use it like this, when we use the word Sanskriti, then every possible aspect of human personality, from our attitude to our behavior, from our thoughts to our emotions, from our virtues to our devotion, determination to do good things, they all come under the premise of Sanskriti. And this Sanskriti that I refer to, it cannot belong to one country or one race. It belongs to humanity. It is universal and it is eternal. This would make sense to you while you are sitting in Germany, equally while you are sitting in Italy, or you are sitting in US or UK. It makes sense wherever you are. That is why this Sanskriti is called Dev Sanskriti. And this Dev Sanskriti becomes the epitome of universal brotherhood. It becomes the symbol of universality and a feeling of togetherness. And a Bharatiya Sanskriti or Indian culture, or rather Vedic culture, talks about this universality from very, very, very beginning. The virtues that are mandatory to define a human being as a human being. Simple as that. If I want to call myself a human being, then I should have certain qualities. When we look at a cat or we look at a dog, we cannot say that this one is more cat and this one is more dog as compared to other. Dog is dog, cat is cat. But when we look at the human beings, you can say that he has got more humanity than the other person. And this spectrum that we have, where some people have got more humanity as compared to others. Some people have more attributes, more characteristics, more qualities, more virtues, more beautiful sentiments as compared to others. Is the beauty of the humanity, is the beauty of human being. And that is the foundation of Sanskriti. That's why one person becomes much more kind and noble. And when he becomes or she becomes much more kind and noble in one country, she is respected with the same feeling in others. Mahatma Gandhi would become a sign of reverence, not only in India but everywhere else. Mother Teresa, Kagaba, Saint Francis the Assisi, Rabia, others, everyone, because they belong to this school of thought of humanity. They belong to this concept that we have got this possibility of reviving a divine quality inside us by a process of refinement and embellishment, which is what is called as Sanskriti. And usually when we talk about Indian culture or Bharatiya Sanskriti, it gives an impression to the people that there is something that we are talking about that should belong only to the people who are living within the boundaries of India. And precisely that is the barrier that I would like to break. I remember a very beautiful anecdote in this respect, and I would like to share this with you. It is a story of Swami Vivekananda. Everyone knows him. When he returned to India, because he went to US in 1892 to take part in the World Congress of Religion and made a huge name there. The impact that he created was beyond comprehension. And when he returned to India on January 15th, 1897, after his very, very long abroad trip, his ship reached to Colombo. And almost entire city of Colombo gathered to see him. It is possible to empathize with their excitement now, because there was, of course, immense excitement in them. Everyone wanted to see him, meet him, greet him, listen to him. So they organized a huge welcome ceremony to express their respect for Swami Vivekananda and for what he did. And in that ceremony, head of the organizing committee, after welcoming him, asked him a wonderful question. And he asked Swamiji that, Swamiji, you lived for so long in West, and no doubt that your presence made a big impact in the mindset of the people there. For the first time, they could learn about Vedanta, Yoga, Sankhya, and other Indian Vedic wisdom traditions. So your presence was certainly valuable for them. But how did this benefit you? You had to live away from India for 5 years. Great question. And in response, Swami Vivekananda said something even more beautiful. He said that I lived in West for long, and the greatest advantage that I had from this trip is that before I left India, I used to believe in many things just because of sheer belief, because everyone is saying so, you would say the same thing. So that was a blind Shraddha. But now I believe in them with absolute faith and unquestionable devotion. He said that now I believe in them with so much trust that I never had before I left India. He said, because when I was growing up, everyone was saying that India is a special land. It's a Punya Bhumi, it's a land of gods, it's a land of rishis, it's a land of Vedas and Upanishads. And I used to repeat it. But now, when I have lived this far from India, I can say this with a doubtless devotion, that this statement is not an exaggeration, it's not a figment of imagination, it's not a metaphor, but it is absolutely true. He went and he even said that, like, if on entire globe there is one single country, one single nation, where each soul that is aiming to accomplish the final adventure of the human consciousness, then that soul has no other option but to take birth in India. Because without doing that, it would not be possible to accomplish such a colossal feat. He said that if there is one country where compassion, humanity, spirituality, wisdom, and empathy have reached to their ultimate summit, then that country is India. And if not today, then surely tomorrow. The rays of light and waves of wisdom from this land would start influencing the entire world. And what he said so long ago seemed to be true in these days too. Imagine, if this world, this human civilization, had never had any acquaintance with wisdom traditions like yoga, tapa, jnana, vedanta, sankhya, astha, Adhyatma, all those great traditions that took birth in this very land, but for humanity. Just imagine a history of humanity without rishis, without God saints, without Sikh gurus, without Sufi fakirs, without Jaini Tirthankars, without Bhakti Kaleen Kavis, Ram, Krishna, Patanjali and Gurudev, Swami Shivanand. Just imagine for a second that humanity missed the opportunity to witness and embrace those great souls who took birth in this very land of Buddha and Mahavir, land of Gandhi to Gurudev, and the horizons of humanity were not being shaped and fashioned by the radiance and vivacity of their personality, then was it even possible for humankind to scale the summit that it managed to conquer? The science and technology that I started to talk about, was that even possible without creating the concept of humanity within the human beings? We can read the history of the entire world, and you will find that most of the pages of the history books of every single country, they have been filled with the cascade of blood. They are soaked, except the tales of compassion and humanity that come from Buddha, Mahavir, Mudgal, Dadhichi, Aruni, Dalak and so many others, Namdev to Eknath and Tukaram to all the Bhaktikalin Kavis. They visited this land thousands of years ago to proclaim the teachings of peace and harmony and universal brotherhood, when even the concept of language was still at a nascent stage in most of the world. The universities like Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramshila, they were teaching the concept of universal brotherhood, not only in India, but everywhere else. When we thought that a mindless and maddening race to acquire wealth at the cost of human lives was something that everyone should do. Kings like Siddhartha and Vardhaman and Bhartrihari and Raghu and Dilip and Ajay and Ikshvaku, they declared their inclination for benevolence over battles. And this is the beauty of universal brotherhood that Dev Sanskriti teaches us. There comes a very beautiful and remarkable saying in Maha-Upanishad, which says, it was written thousands of years ago, remember. It said, Ayam nijah paroveti ganana laguchetasam udara charita namato Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Ayam, this nijah, mine. Paroveti, that belongs to you. This is mine, that is yours. That kind of feeling belongs to the small-minded people. Udara charita namato. Those who have declared their devotion for Udara Charitra, compassion and empathy. Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. For them, entire world is one single family. And this was said 5,000 years ago. We belong to one single family. You may be sitting in Yoga Vidya, Germany. You belong to the Gayatri Pariwar. We may be sitting here. We belong to your family. We all are a part of one single family. Only the people with narrow minds have this attitude that this is mine and that is yours. But the people with big hearts believe the whole world is their extended family. And this concept of Vedic culture or divine culture, as we call it in Hindi, Dev Sanskriti is the foundation of this university that I am currently sitting. It is called Dev Sanskriti for no reason. For us, for all of you, you may have taken births in different continents, in different families, and may have come from diverse background, but we all are part of one single family, a family of unity and a family of humanity. This is how this fabric is created. Gurudev, I would like to introduce him briefly, because Gurudev was who founded this university and who founded the entire fraternity of Gayatri Pariwar with 150 million members. He was one of the most prolific scholars, groundbreaking scholar of modern India, authored more than 3,400 books and orated on every single aspect of human development. He long time ago, he talked about this concept. He said that if humanity has to find a way to survive, then four founding pillars are needed. Ekata, Samata, Shuchita, Mamata. Ekta means unity, Samata means equality, Shuchita means sacredness, Mamata means compassion. Imagine if we don't have those qualities in any human society, that would be a dead society. There would be no feeling, there would be no life, there would be no radiance in it, there would be no vibrations in it, there would be no pulse in it. It would be absolutely dead. If we create a society where there is no equality, if we create a society where there is no solidarity, if we create a society where there is no compassion, if we create a society where there is no sacredness, what the hell we are creating? The idea of Dev Sanskriti is to talk about a concept where universal brotherhood is fashioning the new fabric of humanity. And hence I will say that Sanskriti is not a simple term. It's a force like air, fire and light. Air cannot be divided. Not one person can claim that, oh, I can have all the sunlight. Sun is for everyone. Clouds rain for everyone too. The unity is universal and eternal. Separations are transient and temporary. Let us announce through this conference, an online webinar, that as human beings we can never be separated. We can never be divided. And we can never be parted from each other because we belong to one family of humanity. This family of humanity, Gurudev talked about. This family of humanity, all the rishis talked about. This family of humanity, the Indian culture talks about. This family of humanity, the Gayatri mantra talks about. And this family of humanity, everyone lived for. Everyone lived for. I share a small story before I end this discussion, just to give you an idea that how important it was for rishis to believe in this concept. And this story belongs to Mudgal. Mudgal was a very famous rishi living in the Mahabharat time. And in Mahabharat time, Lord Krishna arranged a yajna. After Mahabharat battle was finished, he called Yudhishthir and he said to Yudhishthir that, listen, you are becoming king now, but that's not the end of your responsibility. That is actually beginning of your responsibility. He said, you are becoming king, but does not mean that now you have got everything that you wanted to have. He said, now you should set a precedence that how people should live in your kingdom. You should create a kingdom of righteousness. He said, I will do whatever you would like to do, you would like me to do. So Lord Krishna asked Yudhishthira to do a yajna. He did a yajna. Yajna is the fire ceremony, sacred fire ceremony. And when yajna finished, then everyone saw that a mongoose came from somewhere. This mongoose was half cold, half normal. And this mongoose was lying in the different, fire altars and was very unhappy. So Lord Krishna called him. Lord Krishna said that, why are you so dejected? Why you look so disappointed? He said, I came here with too much of hope. I said, what do you mean? He said, you can see that I'm half cold and half normal. He said, yeah, I can see that. He said, do you want to know why I am half cold, or why I became half cold? And Lord Krishna said, yeah, tell me. So he said that I live in the ashram of Maharshi Mudgal. And mongoose said that Maharshi Mudgal, he was doing a very severe penance. What he used to do, it is called Shilonchvritti in Sanskrit, that he used to pick only those grains which have fallen by themselves on the land. So he would never steal anything, he would never pick anything, he would only collect those food grains which automatically came. And then he used to collect those grains, divide them into 3 portions. One he kept for himself, one he donated to the society, one he left for any guest who may be coming to his hut, cottage. And that food also he used to take every 15th day, full moon and dark night. That's it. This was going on. And rest of the time he was doing tapasya, penance, meditation. And this mongoose was telling the story that one day a man came who was bleeding from everywhere. He was heavily injured. He had multiple wounds. He had multiple diseases. He was smelling like anything. There was pus coming out, blood coming out, was in a very dreaded condition. No one wanted to go near him. And everyone was saying, go away, go away. When he went to Mudgal, Mudgal was having food after 15th day. Then Mudgal immediately gave his plate, his food plate to him. Not only he fed him, but he also gave him the water. He was also washing his wounds. And when he was washing his wounds, then this man started to cry that there is a humanity, compassion left somewhere. And Mongoose said that those tears of happiness, they fell on my back. He said, wherever they fell, I became of gold. Rest was normal. Well, since then, I have been going everywhere. Wherever I hear that some kind of religious ceremony is taking place, I go with the hope that if I lie down there, who knows, I will become fully gold. So I came here with too much of hope. He said, I went everywhere but was very despondent, disappointed. He said, first time I heard that Lord is doing the yajna. Dharmaraj Yudhishthir is the organizing secretary. He thought that this is the place where I would get what I was hoping to get. He said, how come I am going disappointed even from here? Lord Krishna said, you are going disappointed, my dear friend, because we are only doing the yajna, but Mudgal is living the yajna. He said, the one who lives for humanity, he needs no further ritual. One who lives for compassion, he needs no more ceremonies. His life is ceremonial. If we follow the path of humanity, our life becomes ceremony. If we follow the path of compassion, our life becomes the ritual. So I pray, wish, hope that through this online webinar, the salient message of Universal Brotherhood, humanity, compassion, which are the essential ingredients of any society to survive, any civilization to flourish, and any culture to remain intact, which is the message of Sanskriti, embellishment, refinement, that would reach to every single listener. Pray for your well-being to Ma Gayatri, Puja Gurudev and Mandaniya Mataji. I also hope that once this pandemic time is over, then all of you would be able to visit us in Haridwar. Our ashram, which sprawls across 500 acres, have never charged anything at all to anyone. It is based on the concept that Gurudev created, that if money is the foundation of any spiritual effort, then it just pollutes the purpose. So, welcome to all of you, and I hope that one day we would be able to see you here in the premises of Haridwar. Pranavs to everyone.